The rain battered the windows of our Seattle apartment, a relentless drumbeat that mirrored the storm in my chest. I stood in the kitchen, clutching a cold coffee mug, staring at the man I'd married 2 years ago, who now felt like a stranger. Ezra, my husband, sat at the dining table, his eyes fixed on his laptop, his face as unreadable as the gray sky outside. We'd been in love once, or so I thought. Back in college, Ezra's quiet intensity had drawn me in. His sharp wit, the way his hazel eyes crinkled when he laughed, the late-night talks about dreams and fears. It felt like we were building something unbreakable. But after the wedding, something shifted. Ezra grew distant, his warmth replaced by a wall I couldn't breach. He'd come home late from his graphic design job, offer a curt, "I'm fine," when I asked about his day, and retreat to his side of the bed, leaving a cold expanse between us. I wondered if I'd done something wrong, if I wasn't enough. The silence between us was louder than the rain. Tonight, though, something felt different. Ezra had come home early, his jacket dripping as he hung it by the door. He'd mumbled about a deadline, but his voice carried an edge I couldn't place, nervous, almost fragile. I watched him now, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, not typing. "Ezra," I said, my voice softer than I meant. "Can we talk?" He glanced up, his eyes flickering with something guilt. "Fear." "Not now, Caleb," he said, his tone clipped. "I've got work." He always had work. I swallowed the hurt, nodding, and turned back to the sink, scrubbing a plate that was already clean. The distance between us wasn't just emotional. It was physical, a chasm I didn't know how to cross. Later that night, I lay awake in bed, the rain still pounding outside. Ezra was asleep beside me, his breathing slow and steady. I studied his face in the dim light filtering through the curtains. Even in sleep, he looked guarded, his brow slightly furrowed. I wanted to reach out, to trace the lines of his jaw, to ask what had happened to us. But I didn't. Instead, I closed my eyes, willing sleep to come. Then I felt Ida's soft brush against my lips. My eyes snapped open. Ezra was still asleep, his face inches from mine, his lips grazing my own in a gentle, unconscious kiss. His breath was warm, and his voice, barely a whisper, slipped out, "Don't leave." My heart stopped. I froze, afraid to move, afraid to breathe, as if the moment would shatter. Was he dreaming? Was this real? I stayed still, watching his face, searching for answers in the shadows. The next morning, Ezra acted like nothing had happened. He was up before me, already dressed in his usual black sweater and jeans, sipping coffee at the counter. "Morning," he said, his voice flat, his eyes avoiding mine. I wanted to ask about last night, to demand what he'd meant, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I nodded and poured my own coffee, the silence between us heavier than ever. Days passed, and I couldn't shake the memory of his whisper. "Don't leave." It haunted me, a plea that didn't match the man who barely spoke to me anymore. I started noticing things I hadn't before: how Ezra's hands trembled slightly when he thought I wasn't looking, how he'd linger by the door before leaving for work, as if hesitating. Was he hiding something? Was he unhappy? Or was it something deeper, something I'd missed all along? One evening, I couldn't take it anymore. Ezra was in the living room, sketching on his tablet, the glow illuminating his face. I sat across from him, my heart pounding. "Ezra, we need to talk," I said, my voice firmer this time. He froze, his stylus hovering midair. "What's wrong with us?" I pressed. "You're here, but you're not. I don't know what's going on with you, but I can't keep pretending everything's fine." His eyes met mine, and for the first time in months, I saw something raw in them: pain, maybe, or fear. "Caleb." He stopped, his jaw tightening. "It's not you. It's me." The cliché stung, but his voice cracked, and I realized he meant it. He stood abruptly, muttering about needing air, and grabbed his jacket. The door slammed behind him, leaving me alone with the echo of his words. I sat there, staring at the empty couch, my mind racing. What was he hiding? Was he cheating? Was he sick? Or was it something else entirely? I thought of his whisper again, the desperation in it. I couldn't let this go. I needed answers. The next night, I found myself searching for clues. Ezra was at a client meeting, and I was alone in the apartment. Guilt gnawed at me, but I opened his laptop, the one he was always so protective of. The screen lit up, revealing a folder labeled Personal. My hands shook as I clicked it open. Inside were sketches, dozens of them. Portraits of me. Me laughing. Me reading. Me sleeping. Each one was detailed, almost reverent, capturing moments I didn't even know he'd noticed. At the bottom of each sketch was a single word: stay. My breath caught. These weren't the drawings of a man who didn't care. They were the work of someone who felt too much, who was holding something back. But why? What was he so afraid of? I closed the laptop, my heart a tangled mess of hope and confusion. When Ezra came home, I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed to understand more, to find the key to the wall he'd built between us. The days that followed were a tightrope walk. I didn't tell Ezra about the sketches, but they burned in my mind, each one a question mark. Why had he drawn me with such care, yet kept me at arm's length? I started watching him more closely, catching the moments when his guard slipped a fleeting smile when I made a dumb joke, the way his hand lingered on mine when passing the salt. It was as if he wanted to reach out but couldn't. One Saturday, we went to Pike Place Market, a rare outing together. The air was crisp, the crowd buzzing with energy. Ezra seemed lighter, pointing out a vendor selling handmade journals, his eyes bright with a spark I hadn't seen in months. "You'd like that one," he said, nodding at a leather-bound notebook with embossed stars. I bought it, not because I needed it, but because it felt like a bridge between us, however small. As we walked, our shoulders brushed, and for a moment, it felt like old times. But then his phone buzzed, and his face clouded over. He stepped away to take the call, his voice low and tense. When he returned, the spark was gone, replaced by that familiar distance. "Work," he muttered, but I didn't believe him. I wanted to push, to demand the truth, but the crowd around us felt like a barrier. Instead, I held the journal tighter, its weight a reminder of the moment we'd almost had. That night, I couldn't sleep. Ezra was beside me, his breathing uneven, as if he were caught in a restless dream. I watched him, my heart aching. Then it happened again. He shifted closer, his lips brushing my forehead, his voice a faint murmur, "Don't leave me." Caleb. This time, I didn't freeze. I reached out, gently touching his cheek. His eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, he looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Then panic flashed across his face, and he pulled away, sitting up abruptly. Ezra, what's going on? I asked, my voice trembling. You keep saying that in your sleep. Don't leave. What are you afraid of? He ran a hand through his hair, his shoulders tense. It's nothing, he said, but his voice was unsteady. Just a dream. It's not just a dream, I said, sitting up too. I saw your sketches. Ezra. All of them. You're drawing me like I'm the only thing that matters. But you won't even talk to me. What's wrong? His face paled, and for a moment, I thought he'd bolt. But then he sighed, a sound so heavy it seemed to carry years of weight. Caleb, I'm scared, he whispered. I'm scared I'm not enough for you. That you'll wake up one day and realize you deserve better. His words hit me like a punch. Ezra, how could you think that? I said, my voice breaking. You're everything to me. Why didn't you tell me? He looked away, his jaw tight. Because I'm broken, he said. There's something I haven't told you. Something I've been carrying for years. My heart raced, but I stayed quiet, giving him space. He took a shaky breath and began. Before we met, I was with someone. His name was Ryan. We were together for 3 years, and I thought it was forever. But he got sick. Cancer. It was fast, and it destroyed him. I watched him fade. Caleb. And I couldn't do anything. When he died, I swore I'd never let myself love like that again. It hurt too much. Tears stung my eyes. I reached for his hand, but he pulled back, his voice raw. When I met you, I tried to keep you at a distance, but I couldn't. I fell for you, and it terrified me. Every day, I'm scared you'll leave, or something will take you away, and I'll be left with nothing again. I didn't know what to say. The weight of his pain filled the room, and I understood now why he'd been so cold. It wasn't might, was his fear, his grief, his scars. I moved closer, refusing to let him retreat. Ezra, I said softly, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. Whatever happens, we face it together. He looked at me, his eyes glistening. For the first time in months, he didn't pull away. He leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. And we sat there, breathing together, the rain outside softening to a whisper. The weeks that followed were fragile, like walking on new ice. Ezra was trying to talk more, shared small pieces of himself, but I could still feel the weight of his fear. I didn't push, but I made sure he knew I was there. I'd leave notes on the fridge. Silly things like, you're stuck with me, or made your favorite coffee. Slowly, the apartment felt warmer, the silence less oppressive. One evening, Ezra came home with a small package. He set it on the table, his hands fidgeting. Open it, he said, his voice nervous but soft. Inside was the journal from Pike Place, the one with the embossed stars. But now, it was filled with his sketches, not just of me, but of us. Us laughing at a diner. Us walking through the park. Us tangled in bed. On the last page, he'd written, for Caleb. My home. I looked up, tears blurring my vision. Ezra. I couldn't find the words. He stepped closer, his hand brushing mine. I'm trying, he said. I'm still scared, but I don't want to lose you. I want to be better for us. I pulled him into my arms, and for the first time in too long, he didn't tense. He melted into me, his breath warm against my neck. I love you, he whispered, and it felt like a promise. We started small date nights, long talks, therapy. Ezra opened up about Ryan, about the guilt he carried for moving on. I listened, holding his hand, letting him grieve. I shared my own fears, how I'd worried I wasn't enough, how his distance had made me question myself. We were honest, raw, and it hurt, but it was the kind of hurt that heals. One night, months later, we lay in bed, the rain a gentle hum outside. Ezra was curled against me, his head on my chest. Caleb, he murmured, his voice sleepy but clear. Thank you for staying. I kissed his forehead, my heart full. Always, I said. The journey wasn't over. There were still days when Ezra's fear crept in, when I'd catch him staring out the window, lost in thought. But we faced it together, building something stronger than before. Our love wasn't perfect, but it was real, forged in pain, tempered by trust, and anchored by the promise to never let go. In the end, I learned that love isn't just the easy moments, the laughter and the sparks. It's the quiet battles, the whispered pleas in the dark, the choice to stay when everything feels broken. Ezra and I were still learning, still growing, but we were doing it together. And that was enough.